Rain drummed persistently against the hood of a sleek black car parked on the desolate pier, its presence as commanding as the woman standing beside it, shadows concealing her intent gaze. Her fingers curled lightly around a cigarette, the smoke swirling around her with an elegance that foreshadowed the unraveling storm. "He's not who you think he is," a voice had whispered in her mind, echoing with the resonance of truth she'd been too wary to acknowledge. Natalie Russo was a blend of contradictions, the grace of her figure belied by the meticulous vigilance in her eyes. As an undercover cop in the heart of Vera City, she had donned the persona of a Mafia affiliate with unsettling ease, her existence a balancing act on a wire of deception spun too finely thin. Viewed through the lens of hazy club lights, she was yet to gain the trust required to penetrate the secrets of the notorious Moretti clan. Her infiltration had started inconspicuously, a bartender job facilitated by a carefully engineered identity, but her objectives were grave and implacable. The crisis loomed uninvitingly before her now. Leo Moretti, ruthless and revered, had been marked for death, a pawn in a larger game of power and retribution. Intelligence streamed the confirmation like a death knell, vibrating insidiously through the earpiece hooked discreetly within her hair. Natalie paced, gunmetal scent mingling with the acrid cologne he wore like a second skin, as the red dot of an unseen laser sight traced across his unwitting silhouette mere feet away. She could feel the weight of scrutiny from all sides. Double agents murmured suspicions in shadowed corners, their voices tainted with the venom of doubt, while her superiors tracked each misstep with watchful disdain. Every interaction a calculated maneuver, yet nothing as damning as the decision which clenched her mind today. From the rooftop above, the assassin's figure merged indistinctly with the darkness, the glint of a sniper rifle zeroed in with deadly intent. Below, unaware, Moretti smoked a cigar, a portrait of unhurried malevolence and enigma wrapped in luxury and fear. All that Natalie had to do was let nature take its course, stand by, allow the wheel of justice to turn as planned. But when she glanced at him from her peripheral view, something rippled the image. A familiarity tinged with destiny she couldn't ignore. Yet it wasn't detective instincts that spurred her next move, but a simple act of improbable recognition, of connection buried deep within her marrow. With precision honed in training, yet forgotten in emotion's onslaught, Natalie surged forward. "Get down." Her voice cut clean through the air, a command threaded with urgency and unfamiliar allegiance. She yanked Leo back just as the shot rang out. It embedded itself into the steel dockpost with a guttural clang, its echo swallowed by the tide. Adrenaline roared through her veins as confusion painted itself across Moretti's sharp features, a mix of anger and astonishment, finally pulled to a peak. The tattoo peeking from under his left sleeve, a jagged scar through its heart, registered like a lightning bolt in her mind. It was a mark she knew all too well. His gaze locked with hers, his voice a measured cascade of command within chaos. "Who are you really?" Natalie's heart thundered, secrets pounding at the edge of revelation, as she fought to tether her tangled loyalties into any semblance of order. Trust was a currency she didn't have in ample supply, yet here it demanded investment. As the reality of her father's presence weighted her revelations, the world tilted slightly off-axis. She could still feel the pulsating intent of the sniper honing in, unable to reconcile the target now intertwined with her lineage. "It's not safe here," she managed to mutter, her resolve pounding alongside the raging storm. The aftermath was a frantic scramble, both veering back toward the safety of the car, its interior a sanctuary amidst the brewing chaos. Leo drove with desperate speed, eyes flicking to her with revealing intervals of suspicion, combined with intrigue he couldn't mask. Escalation clawed its way into the underbelly of Vera City. As they weaved through narrow lanes and hidden alleys brimming with unwelcome shadows, every corner held potential betrayal and witnessing eyes. The weight of her identity layered itself into each breath, condensed thicker by his perceived closeness. The car finally skidded to a halt outside his safe house, a regal silhouette against the storm's veneer. Inside, planters wrapped the fringes with life, but she perceived the invisible lines Moretti crossed to welcome her as unfaltering bonds needing veracity. Answers. His command was a knife's edge, cutting through pretense as guns were drawn from leather holsters, the jet-black barrels testament to the hostility simmering below his expectation. He searched her from within depths barely penetrable, but she felt it, the recognition of something he'd lost, perhaps as resonant as her own. The truth wove its tapestry of narratives, possibilities, and undeniable facts, unspoken yet steadily forming, readying its lips with potent delay. Her past collided with its unchecked future, and in a fleeting, irrevocable moment, the certainties she knew melted, rediscovered in him. "You're trying to kill me," Leo ridiculed softly, incredulity coloring his laugh even as he blocked the vault of disbelief with bravado. Always bravado. "Not as you think," she wanted to say, looming boldness overridden by the weight of impending truth. Instead, silence found footing in confession. The storm surrendered its relentless tirade slowly, allowing momentary lulls within the safe house. Light fractured across worn wooden floors as she drew breath deeper than nerve could ally. They sat across a table painted with history, shadows slipping down their shoulders, and recollection mingling between breaths as Natalie faced the man who dictated her investigations and awakened something more profound, where her profession dowered its expectations and unearthed personal revelations. The quiet washed over them like the sea's rhythm, compounding the short-lived stillness, robbing bare words of what the heart dared express. He stared and she held the contrary, lingering breath. Just then, without break, the moment pivoted. A shadow slipped beyond the window, form lit solely by street lamps outside, a visage and intent clearly visible through beads of rain cascading across the glass. A breath, thought, escaped her with profound tremor. "He's back," she whispered under her breath. The knock at the safe house door resounded like a cannon shot, sending an electrifying dread through both of them, contrasting sharply with the storm's muffled roar outside. Natalie's eyes darted towards the shadow in the window, and for a heartbeat, it felt as if the world had paused, sucking the very air from her lungs. Leo, instinctively brushing his hand against the holstered gun at his side, signaled a silence that was upheld by instinct rather than command. Rain cascaded in torrents down the window pane, creating an illusory prison of water between them and the outside world, while the silent breath of tension hummed between their shared gaze. Leo's crisp shoes tapped softly against the wooden floor as he approached the door, each step announcing his calculated confidence, a misplaced assurance that caused a knot to tighten in Natalie's stomach. Past the crimson rug catching at the heel of her boots, she followed with trepidation enveloping her like a familiar, unshakable shroud. When Leo swung the door open, a wash of moonlight veiled a figure draped in the long shadows of evening. To Natalie's relief, it was Antonio, one of Leo's most trusted right-hand men-a-man, with ambition as potent as his loyalty. His black trench coat dripped with the night's impatience, and his soaked hat seemed to carry news of weight. "Boss," he murmured, his voice blending with the rain's symphony, "we need to talk. Alone." Leo's expression tightened, a collage of authority and expectation, but Natalie sensed the unwavering defiance in the man's request was tempered with respect. As Antonio and Leo retreated into a nearby room, the door closing behind with a resolute click, Natalie was left with only her anxious thoughts and the rain's ceaseless embrace. She absorbed the room's detail, the weight of antique furniture under the burden of history, the scent of aged mahogany mingling with the vestiges of cigar smoke, and the repetitive whisper of the clock counting moments in immutable resolve. Each tick saturated the air with tension. Her mind, a kaleidoscope of potentialities, returned inexorably to the scar on Leo's arm, a familial remnant of past lives threading through present complexities. It sang to her in a siren's timbre, urging exploration into the chasm it opened within her understanding. The door swung open once more, and Leo's measured stride carried him back into her orbit. His eyes met hers, communicating flickers of unease, mixed with an unexpected softness, as though a silent truce had formed under Antonio's poignant exchange. "They've found us," Leo remarked, his voice a tightly spun core restrained, yet turbulent. Natalie's immediate realization was that she wasn't just another ripple in their wake. She was already swept into the undercurrent that threatened to swallow them whole. "You're still in danger," she whispered, struggling against the impulse to assume a role defined more by instinct than by decision. "We need to leave now." Her urgency was a thread pulled against anticipation, unraveling the fragile tapestry of safety they'd managed to weave. The sound of rain punctuated their resolve as Leo, affirmation implicit in his curt nod, led her swiftly through the back of the house, along a passageway little known to many. Deep within the labyrinth of the city's concealed vein, sallies swathed in sharps of lamplight and veils of enveloping shadow, they navigated towards an unknown refuge, straining against the crush of time and enemies unseen. Questions that had nested silently in Natalie's mind now took flight, circling in patterns defined by anxiety. Who had sent the sniper? And more troubling, why had her life been sparred? Answers lay shrouded beneath layers of hidden agendas that laced through Moretti's clan as intricately as their alliances. As they moved, the rain abated slightly, leaving the echo of drips like heartbeats against the surrounding structures. A harmony of resumed life, poised delicately on the edge of chaos. Finally reaching the threshold of an unassuming building nestled deep within the urban underbelly, Leo gave a signal, gesture seemingly innocuous, yet intentional, and the door opened for them as if by invitation. The interior welcomed them with an unadorned serenity, disturbed only by the murmur of conversation in distant rooms, a testament to the trust this refuge inspired. It was a part of Leo's network resolute in its simplicity, bolts and oak securing secrets against the threats that lingered beyond. Inside, a central fireplace cast a gentle glow, warming the wooden-floored expanse. Leo's voice instructed yet another close associate, reinforcements on guard but hidden out of view. Natalie eased into a chair, her senses absorbing the room's rhythms, her own pulse gradually aligning with the palpable vigilance that encircled her. She thought of the words she needed to say, but they danced beyond her reach, confined by years lost and secrets undiscovered. Leo joined her, his presence a compelling dichotomy of authority and something almost kind, offering a glimpse of vulnerability shielded by the man the world dreaded and revered. "I need to know," she forced the words into careful space, glancing where the scar lay beneath his sleeve like an unspoken truth awaiting voice. "Why did you leave us?" In his pause was the weight of lifetimes passing, reflections on roads taken winding through regrets unuttered. He picked up a small photograph from the table, its edges frayed by time and touch. Sliding it toward her, his gaze reaffirmed their shared tether. "Not a choice," came his reply, gravelly yet tender. "Circumstances chose for me." Silence grew, enriched by the confines of proximity, acknowledging paths of unknowable fates colliding. Natalie's fingers traced the photograph's worn outline, depicting scenes of familiarity cherished yet painful in the reverence of recollection. A sacred illustration reserved in a single captured moment, almost breaking the hardened line of Leo's expression. Yet outside, the clatter of distant footsteps shattered their reflective tableau, impressions of pursuers aligned intent on approaching once more. As shadows threatened to crowd the room, Natalie's revelation echoed between them, stories half told now demanding full measure. "He's here," she breathed, casting past into action, a culmination writ large. Her words rested upon a precipice looming with consequence, and the chase was inevitable. The night stretched her inexorable hand towards them, beckoning with promises yet to fulfill. With the storm an ever-present specter at their back, their entwined resolutions surged forward, a tale of soaked streets, whispered betrayals, and destiny's elusive hand guiding them into the unknown. "You're not my real family." Natalie's voice cut through the tension like a blade of truth, splitting the storm with a flash of unwelcome clarity. The admission lingered between them in the dim light of the safe house, where whispers of rain danced against the windows. The external chaos muted compared to the whirlwind inside. Natalie, small and deliberate in the depths of the shadowed room, stood like a fragment of departing mystery. Golden sparks writhed beneath her skin, a foundation of familial fervor blending with clandestine betrayal. In her presence was a quiet potential for danger, wrapped intricately in layers of self-preservation, honed over years of living a double life. "Crisis, Natalie!" Leo's voice broke with unfamiliar emotion, a siren of denial struggling against the tide. His eyes a tempest of inquiry, only his facade as the Moretti patriarch could command. What are you really trying to say? His grip tightened on the table's edge, a tense reminder of power. She averted her gaze, studying the fading fireplace glow as if seeking solace in the ashes. For a moment, time stood still, measured only by the dripping faucet's percussion and the distant hum of new threats burgeoning at the heart of Vera City. Anxiety hung heavy, droplets of sweat forming like a secondary skin beneath the collar of her jacket. Her confidence had begun to fracture under the weight of their coiled past, each crack laboriously resisting the imposition of light. As if reading the gravity of her hesitation, Leo pushed forward with restrained resolve. Natalie, what aren't you telling me? Escalation. The moment balanced on the knife edge of her secrets in Leo's growing suspicion. Little did either of them know, each choice was steering deeper into uncharted chaos. Soon after the silence thickened, Antonio's bulky shadow reemerged, pulling Leo aside with a mixture of urgency and foreboding stitched into every gesture. Their whispers slipped through the veil of one world into another, leaving Natalie to weave through her discontent undisturbed. Her gaze landed on the scar she'd glimpsed earlier, so familiar and haunting in its suggestion. The mark it left was not merely physical, its significance transcended flesh, binding them in memories dimmed by years and circumstances that chose their paths long before conscience had a say. Her thoughts spiraled with the realization that each move brought them closer to an inevitable encounter with forces beyond reckoning. If they wanted the truth to quell the storm, both her identity and allegiances would have to withstand scalding scrutiny. Revealed, Natalie's heart thrummed with the courage of admission. To unveil the century-soul cadence of her life, a connection hidden beneath layers of time and deception. That mark, her voice quivered, yet firm in its resolve. I have it too. The words hung between them, weighty with implication. She rolled up her sleeve, just enough to reveal the matching tattoo, the jagged scar etched into her skin in shared heritage. Leo's eyes widened, a mixture of shock and recognition. He reached out instinctively, the rawness of familial bond cloaked beneath armor of false antagonism. Climax. Thunder raged outside in spectacular resonance, crafting a symphony for their unspoken truce. In a confounding twist of fate, Natalie and Leo stood across from each other, forces both compelling and fierce, a reconciling duo entangled in puzzles only they could decipher. Time seemed to collapse, replaced by the rhythmic unison of heartbeats shared across the span between them. Each pulse bore the gravity of stories untold, lives unresolved, poised on the precipice of an uncertain reunion. Resolution. You were always there, weren't you? Leo spoke softly, his barriers lowering with the understanding of ties deeply threaded by an errant history. Natalie nodded, her voice a whisper beneath the noise. When it mattered, yes, even as his exterior maintained the confident bravado befitting the Moretti name, inside was a man coming to terms with loss and the unexpected renewal of hope. It was a fragile thread that could resist depletion just long enough for their tales to find their closure. In the wavering shadows of the room, warmth emanated from the fireplace, a flickering metaphor for trust's renewed flame amid the ever-present storm. Cliffhanger. Suddenly the door creaked ominously as if anticipating their newfound understanding, and the distinctive silhouette of another figure cast its shadow across their path. This changes everything. Single thread of lightning split the sky, illuminating the silhouettes caught in suspense, the storm-tossed safe house serving as refuge and reckoning. She's bluffing, Antonio declared, his voice carrying a challenge sharpened by suspicion greater than curiosity. But Natalie wasn't bluffing. Her eyes, steely yet reflective with vulnerability, met the disbelief marking every line of his rugged face. He was calculating in his disbelief. But in the storm's fleeting flash, hesitation lingered in the rain-drenched wrinkles of his expression. Antonio, ever the gatekeeper, underestimated her resolve. Not yet seasoned by the trials and secrets life tussled into her path, he was unaware of the balance she harnessed between his arrogance and her concealed skill. Natalie, conscious of the shift her revelation had invoked, remained unwavering, a mosaic of intricately woven intentions displayed in her posture. Even against the shadowed backdrop, the scar on her arm glistened, a constellation marking her skin, binding her to a legacy reinterpreted through her presence. To doubt who I am, she cautioned gently, is to doubt everything you believe in. Inside the room, clad in history's decay, she read each persona tapestry of fate. Leo stood firm like a colossus anchored by tides of recollection and resolve, while Antonio mirrored doubt the opposite pole of the same star-kept mystery encircling them. A clock ticked the march of tense seconds between words and waiting, droplets against unapologetic leather, the tap of her boot setting its own music against the credence of hushed time. Abandon beckoned her back memories from a time when safety was no stranger, when shadows held no darkness to conceal. But now the reflection of herself through those she sought, solace, informed a daring and unrelenting courage thrummed louder therewith. Crisis. Her gamble was precarious. Overthrow tradition. Ride the tide of audacity, tempered by the crystalline edge of survival. Still a shift had begun among them. Eyes that once pierced with suspicion now studied her with reluctant respect. Unseen, the storm laughed beyond each echo, striking beatifically aligned with the friction born from unresolved mysteries unraveling between them. Nature knitted human folly within the chaos, all foretold in the splattering cadence painted in moonlit rainbows across their shared existence. Why now? Antonio demanded, his voice sharpened by the kind of fear that refused yet the faith truth required. Her pulse quickened as if to herald an admission entwined equally with destiny and risk. They've come for him, she admitted, and through his blood, they come for us all. Escalation. Leo's eyes fixed on her, the piercing gaze mapping paths behind her worlds he knew too well. A name fragmented like old bones reached for her compassion. Their existence hinged on her action, the scars of political and personal history converging in seismic tandem. Distant thunder resounded, whispering reminders of unspoken battles looming closer than safety allowed. Side glance from Antonio affirmed unseen pressures were growing restive, content only in the displacement of world mending. Reveal, in the following silence, the truth settled as it demanded. Natalie revealed her hand. A photograph appeared, delicate only in its images, yet weighted by lineage. Each line and curve painted through Leo's features was mirrored in her own. Genetics played as tributes to heritage intertwined. Ghosts of gratitude danced in his eyes. The recognition unfurled emotions, not unlike those she herself wrestled amidst the tempest. Here was the revelation, long icebound, revealed through storms and struggle with threads known too deeply. When Leo spoke, it was not with defiance, but with clarity imbued from newfound understanding. We are a story without written pages, bound in spite of what one might think. Climax. Turning from their moment, the door creaked again, a premonition in its opening. Storm heralded answers, brewed from sheer intent, lighting the air with electric potential. Figures stood silhouetted against the opening night, authority expressed through precise poise, and dusty coattails flickering with each breath of shadow brought into sharp focus under the dim lamps. A game of betrayal played out in silence, until Antonio, ushered with conflicting emotions, began. It's compromised, he avowed, the firelight threading desperation within his timbre. The profound weight of final confrontation impending, kindled across Leo's recognition of unleashing comprehension. Here in the safe house amid fading shadows, a conclave birthed its answers amid centuries' teetering inquiry. Resolution. Compromised or none, Natalie's voice anchored the present. You must concede I'm right. Defiance warred within Leo's stern mask, yet there was no doubt in the gravitas of his note, a singular testament against betrayal, binding their truths into actionable decision. Antonio's gaze canted between the two, caught between confirming dangers outsizing verities known. Rain tapped rhythmically, anew a promise of new beginnings cloaked beneath familiar destinies anew. The betrayer's visage, the unknown factor, stepped forth amid them, challenging history where nightfall refined its cruelty and restored the quiet pulse of certainty past. Trust wove its ethereal thread through the well-worn maze, binding expectations toward more adventurous shores. Cliffhanger. Who's next? The looming figure inquired, silhouette resting heavy against the promise of the storm. The gun fell from her hand, slipping from numb fingers as if freed from the weight of indecision, clattering on the hardwood floor, a discordant echo in the sudden stillness of the safe house. The sound resonated through the room like a detonator's click, ominous yet inexorably sealing their fates, marking the threshold of no return. Natalie froze, the shadow of the moment curling around her, a custodian of hidden truths suddenly laid bare. Relinquishing the weapon had taken a calculated defiance, stripping away more than just physical protection. It was abandoning all pretense dripping from whispered lies. The sound drew the immediate focus of everyone present. Leo, standing with the air of a sovereign ruler now uneasy enthroned. Antonio, hingekeeper of doubt, judging with the cool skepticism of a sword left uplifted. And then there was the figure in the doorway, Vincent, enigmatic in both demeanor and intent, carrying the dark weight of an unplayed card within the crooked smile at his lips. Outside, the storm had subsided, leaving a hushed tranquility marred by the distant growl of thunder, rolling beyond the horizon, nature catching its breath. Without her weapon, she stood exposed, the thin veil of her persona slowly unraveling in the grim light. "She's your daughter." Vincent's question, half assertion, half sneer, wormed its way through the tension and found her eyes. Natalie's heartbeat seemed louder than the threads of rain still clinging to the window panes, each drop a prisoner to gravity, only to scatter below. Her pulse echoed that private cascade, spilling into rooms of memories yet unwritten. Leo was expressionless, the ice of recognition between sorrow and acceptance glossing over his gaze. But beneath, scales within whispered of a past tethered in absence, and what time had kept distanced, now swelling visible. "She is," Leo confirmed, voice raw yet tranquil with resolution, each syllable falling with the certainty of a guardian staking show. A cardinal shift occurred in that minute exchange. Doubts rearranged in an obscure dance. Changing tempo within loyalty suffered. Natalie took a long breath, the scent of spent gunpowder settling into the spaces between her thoughts, bonding them with reality. Her eyes met Vincent's with a daring grounded in empathy, the way she saw each intention stripped in shadowed hues. "Then this," Vincent said, opening one hand, the reveal marked by careful poise, "is your choice." A simple closed palm revealed a small object, a photograph frayed at the edges, time's script etched into its very fiber. The image brought forgotten places, secret faces to her mind. It was a family photograph captured in sunlit glass, depicting Leo as a younger man standing beside a woman whose features seemed to dance between memory and halo, between aspiration and legacy. Suddenly realizing the full tapestry of her heritage for the very first time, Natalie absorbed the emotional threads weaving a lacework binding her further into her own tapestry. Her heart quivered in recognition, felt beneath ribs sternly festooned with old entanglements. Leo took a step forward, his breath rattled, yet resolute, a fraying bloom warmed by the embers of recollection. "You said it changes everything," Antonio accused, each word a finely honed blade, intending to cut the competitive veil of acceptance in two. "It doesn't have to," Natalie countered gently, authority wrapped in a cloak of authenticity, pulling Antonio's skepticism under. Vincent's demeanor shifted, the mask of insolence slipping, interest gleaming where contradiction had once held. "I know more than you think," Natalie continued. Her confidence supplanted uncertainty with nostalgia borrowed from ancestral prospects. She raised her chin higher, determination etching paths twined by latent ability. Around them, the room dimmed, a silent circle of dust particles dancing in lamplight flickers, navigating the bland corridors of revolution and revelation they resided. Leo's eyes, orbs embodying unvoiced emotions, tayed on her, a strength magnifying softly inside their hues. "We're still in danger," Vincent admitted. "Everything is on the edge." Urgency painted his voice, the craft of survival nuanced yet Baricidas instrumented. "Not if we act first," Leo directed, bringing forth a room like a mastermind, plotting a chessboard coalition with familial ties. Engrossed, Natalie watched dynamics careful shifting into more intricate forms, a gathering finding merger and passion to harness, plot with shared truths. In unison they moved within proximity, Leo casting fatherly protector on liberated spirit, while trusting in the unspoken bond Natalie finessed into moments defining movement. "We have to move quickly," Antonio vouched, despite his retention lightly lingering. They knew the risk. Partnership imbued action crossing footsteps through uncharted machinations. Another flash of lightning sparsely lit their faces, catching the shadows in contrast. The promise, once unvoiced, becoming a corral to destiny retrieved from time's darkened wings. "You're part of this team, of our story now," Leo declared. He rested hand on her shoulder, a gesture oozing solidarity amidst tempestuous oceans. Outsiders, unaware in the traditional format they had assumed, started mobilizing with fresh direction. Vehicles at the ready, signals conveyed through glances. Hope lightly resonated in Natalie's chest, a burgeoning ember, awaiting forgiving sonance under Rain's dependency, had crafted joint. Reunited, Antonio quirked, skepticism softening under warming capitulation, an unexpected authority evident in the new visage of purpose. Natalie nodded sure-footed, committed entirely. "As their ears one day soon he'll emerge." Her words breathed promise, bound by the setting Veristor leaning. And then, through fading splices, illuminating the corridors of both heart and stage, the shadows scattered once more with a swift motion. Beyond the half-lit curtains, across the street, watched from further afar, and maintaining an eerie presence. "I'll find you," a chilling intention, bounded whisper, echoed countless found inside ethereal winds, felt by those steering directions, a looming shadow promising unfamiliar reverberations with anticipation less mint. Vincent's knife-edged smile gleamed sharper than the blade he toyed with, reflecting the low light of the room like a river of molten silver. It was the kind of smile that spoke of latent promise and uncertain intent, hiding secrets folded into layers of laid-back charm, but underscored by predatory instinct. "Blood is thicker than water, but who's brave enough to wade through it?" Vincent asked, voice smooth as silk, yet leaving a faint trail of danger hanging ambivalently in the room. Natalie's conviction wavered beneath the surface of her calculated exterior. Heartbeats strong in her chest, audible like thunderous applause within the chambers of her own resolve. She felt Antonio's eyes questioning her, his silent judgment resting on an edge finely honed by skepticism and the irrevocable doubt that marred their fragile alliance. But doubt wasn't counted solely between bloodlines or mercurial loyalties. It was coursing like a secret river beneath every decision within these walls, threatening to breach with unwelcome revelations. Inside the safe house, with its wood-paneled shadows and the strange alchemy of late-night resolve, Natalie carried the weight of undisclosed truths. Threads of her past and present wove through the room, emanating from the memento, palpable reminder of the legacy she now not only inherited, but was compelled to honor. "The day is coming," she stated, edging her voice with the firmness that only partial disclosure could hone. The latent reckoning that shadowed their every move was an imminent reminder they all felt. Outside, the storm held its breath. Silence settled fleetingly in tranquil spaces, interrupted only by the casual hum of electricity pulsing faintly in the muted metronome of lights, welcoming the night's embrace. But the calm was deceptive, a hushed breath, before the melody of chaos resumed. "It's not safe here much longer." Leo's voice penetrated the quiet, authority lined with unerring knowledge of threats prickling from all angles, both within and surrounding their beleaguered sanctuary. Antonio nodded, prepared to act, his silent pact one formed of necessity, aided by the shadow-rock tension simmering beneath a brittle facade. "I'll have the cars ready," he acknowledged, admitting the urgency even as his mind raced to keep pace with burgeoning events and uncertain outcomes. There's a single fluid movement as Vincent stands, sheathing the blade into the depths of his coat where innumerable dangers lay concealed, both physical and whispered into the nascency of a lingering moment. "But blood," he trails off, eyes locking briefly with Natalie gaze enigmatic, a dance of truth held at knife point, adorned with mystery, yet undefiled by easy guesses. Natalie understood the delicate nature of their unworded agreement, just as deeply as the scars marking her identity coursed with higher stakes than they collectively knew. Trust unearned yet unexpected had bonded their present juxtaposed against unreliable futures. In the feverish pause linking moments of arcane decisions, the room seemed to inhale sharply, each member subtly reassessing realms of possibility beneath guised intentions. Where legacy met certainty in Leo's uncontrolled glimpse, the depth of familial recognition garnered not only roots, but wreathed branches previously unknown, starved for the truth thirst they now lauded. Shadow of betrayal strengthens enemies' resolve, Vincent murmured, stripping ambiguity from his statement as assurance emitted into encroaching comfort found in shared understanding. The stoic confrontation failed to impact them in the same fashion anymore. An ineffable tapestry had unfolded connections, reweaving perspectives defined through confrontation and mistrust. Their silence settled into Uniona symphony barely begun on a rolling resonance undercurrents, intent bound to action. Leo straightened, the authority behind generations of calculated survival and impervious valor, manifesting anew, galvanized not in isolation but tribute to the transformation only claimed blood begot. As the dust from their tense confessional settled into worn lines of their temporary haven, understanding echoed loud and unspun between walls doubling fate. Even as Antonio and Vincent moved with coordinated readiness toward roles refined within chaotic scripts mapped out that very night, Natalie felt it still, the moment's electric capture, a current threading modern umbilicus poised on revitalizing prelude. If this changes things, then let it be for good, Leo promised, his sentiment unfurling like a black flag woven in resilience against latent tides of pervasive fate. With renewed intent pulled at their feet, they began to yield distraction dissolutions, onto an acceptance of beginnings anew for stories commanded, past untold towards regaled possibilities. Their anxieties bore witness inside shadow, perspective haunted only by terrors rendered truth rather than fear's fables that whisper demise. Then the world paused, placed between breath and consequence, a blind trust baptism by which harmony carved understanding, unanswered throughout chaos advent heralds. Just as clarity dawned, deep shadows across the threshold shifted, their previous stillness a sepulchral, illusory canvas tilting into play. Antonio's sudden caution lit upon the unexpected friend or foe stake movements amplified in precarious balance, poised to unveil under auspicious watching moonlight, guiding perils elegant unraveling. This time inescapably punctuated by intent on the unseen motive, the chill voice whispered lightly, "Well, haven't we all been waiting for you?" The sharp sound of a gunshot echoed through the air, its resonance a thunderclap of impending danger that shattered the fragile veil of peace. Natalie's breath caught in her throat, her skin prickling as if struck by lightning. She spun around, the caress of rain misting her cheeks, melding with the instinctive tension coursing through the surreal moment. Her fingers brushed the familiar lines of a scar under her jacket sleeve, a silent mantra of reassurance and inherited secrets. In the shifting shadows, Leo and Antonio stood poised, locked in a tableau of tension, each man's stance a reflection of the rugged paths their lives had taken. Natalie's eyes, clear and calculating, caught the fleeting spark of uncertainty in their expressions, but it was Vincent's intrepid silhouette that captured her focus, an enigmatic mask of calculated indifference. For a half-second, silence reigned, as if nature itself had paused to witness the web of deception unraveling within the safe house. The delicate motif of fate seemed to flicker like the steady heartbeat drums of rain on the windows. Her senses honed, Natalie sensed the quiet before the storm, the sulphurous remnants of gunpowder twisting through the nocturne. Amidst the fragrant whispers of mahogany and worn leather that cloaked the sanctuary, the reality of betrayal loomed not as an abstract concept, but as a visceral, choking presence. She straightened her shoulders, allowing composure to etch confidence into her slight frame. This is what it comes to, shooting in the dark, hoping for clarity amongst chaos. Her voice rang out, blending with the vivid resonance of determination. Leo's brow furrowed, the intensity of paternal resolve clashing with the disquiet etched deep within his features. There's no other choice now. Beneath the veneer of composure, Natalie felt the simmering waves of pressure and scrutiny ripple through the space between them. The bet had been cast in loyalty's delicate architecture, built upon years of fractured truths and tangled allegiances. Natalie inhaled deeply, daring the darkness to yield its secrets, every beat of her heart punctuating the visible confidence layered over tremors of uncertainty. Within these walls, the pervasive shadows had grown longer, their reach transgressing the boundary between knowledge and action. A cold determination radiated from Antonio, his expression a carefully constructed facade masking the flares of resolution beneath. "We move at dawn," Leo decreed, a sovereign command in his cadence seizing attention. His eyes locked with Natalie's, a bridge of unspoken understanding threading the gap between revelation and their unwelcome reality. Nods of forced agreement, acknowledging the stakes, the room breathed the tension of conspiracies sealed by necessity. Leo's old-world authority, echoing the lost prestige of bloodline and legacy, consumed the hushed atmosphere. Yet obstacles, bold in their inevitability, conspired still. The pulse of the city thrummed alongside their indecision, an ever-present reminder of forces beyond their immediate control. Natalie's thoughts coalesced in reflection, her senses attuned to the visceral pulse tethered in the quiet clarity of personal history. Seconds morphed into thick, syrupy moments, challenging the coherence of belief spun from what debris lay within. She found herself abstractedly tracing the worn edges of the photograph she'd uncovered, the captured smiles enshrined within a time pocket of simpler truths. From behind, Vincent's voice cut through the moment scratchily. "You know this changes everything, right?" Her acknowledgement was firm, unyielding with the weight of choosing between silent subversion and valiant action. "It only changes what we decide," she retorted, crown lifted with fortitude. The flicker of trust cautiously emerged, kindling within their shadows a glimmer of acceptance between variables, murmured testament to their entwined destinies. Days would wane, the storm dim in memory against the blinding renewal of forged paths. Even as they individually reconciled with the burdens of history, the anticipatory tension within each heart forged whispered prayers beneath conscious dialogue. Natalie accepted the encumbering legacy, holding on to it as a repository of unyielding strength, tools, bound together to reforge a world reeling in cyclical redemption. As they laid the groundwork for what was to come, Leo's eyes softened momentarily, portraying reflections of incidents gone unspoken, connections left knotted. Yet there remained a hidden force, stirring purposefully, drawn not solely to ruin but to creation out of this very maelstrom. In that moment of veiled anticipation, shadows conspired to protect or betray, never yielding the silence of auspicious beginnings or unforeseen endings. The horizon of tomorrow dawned not quietly, gradually mixing in hues of unraveling comprehension. Life, seemingly suspended within rebirth, if only for the peace known to those embracing unity. Just as the suspense deepened, a slow realization spread inwardly, envisioning reality's fabric upon which their united destinies might weave salvation anew. And then, sweeping from the periphery, stretching into hidden consciousness like a whispered promise, a shadow overhead, the foreboding presence of a harbinger, yet unnamed, "You thought you knew me," the voice echoed, tinged with knowing retreat. The morning broke with an eerie stillness, the kind that precedes an indelible transformation. The air carried a hue of expectant silence, interrupted only by the distant churn of water against the stone embankment. It was a silence laden with the whispers of destiny, pressing uncomfortably upon the threshold of what was to come. Natalie stood by the window of the safe house, tracing the tendrils of frost creeping over the glass with idle fingers. Her reflection caught her off guard, a visage worn and etched by the intricacies of a life unplanned, yet imminently understood. Somewhere outside the cocoon of their refuge, time loitered, and with it, the unfathomable promise of imminent discovery. The photograph she had discovered, a shared relic bearing familial truth and emotional testament, lay tucked in her jacket pocket, the edges soft from handling and warmth. Its presence was a silent sentinel, merging the past with the precipice of the future. There was no mistaking the reality bound in the details of the image. She was undeniably part of a tangled tale, the center around which ripples now expanded outward. She glanced sidelong at her father, Leo Moretti, a figurehead of magnetic authority now folded in humble demeanor. He was seated at the dining table, the wavering flame from an aged cast-iron lantern painting the shadows over his furrowed brows. Each character line, every etched story spoke of burdens undisclosed, of battles waged in the twilight, where name and family legacy bore equal weight. Natalie, he began, the tone a blend of paternal gentleness and the unyielding firmness of leadership. Today, everything changes. His statement hung between them, taut as the cord drawn against the bow, ready to fly and yet heavy with the threat of an abated collapse. She nodded, acknowledging the crossroads they faced, a juncture drawing its line vividly in the sand. Within the perimeter of the room, Vincent paced with the grace of a specter, his presence the unplanned demise turned ally. His angular poise bore the markings of a man who lived by the survival of wits over physical domination. Yet in his gait loitered the threat of unverifiable allegiance. Antonio, meanwhile, stationed himself by the doorway, his silhouette a sentinel against threat, a guardian stalwart and embattled by a go-dug prejudice. Familiar grease oiled the wheels of his calculated assessment, but eyes probing the distance betrayed submerged concern. Natalie took a deep breath, exhaling slowly, her breath rising in a visible mist against the cool. Her resolve settled within her, poised to engage in a struggle not only for survival but for salvation her family's, and ultimately, her own. "Are you all ready?" she asked, her voice carrying determination and igniting the atmosphere with the potential energy tense in its anticipation. "Ready as we'll ever be," Leo replied, his sentiments shared in a fleeting glance toward Antonio and Vincent. Each felt the pull of inevitability dragging them into the maelstrom, refusing complacency comfort. They moved as a unit, quiet, purposeful, each occupying the space between silence and revelation, with the knowledge that life beyond these walls was a battlefield, yet to be defined by moments realized. The world beyond the doors crackled in a limpid dawn, the first light unsteady on the horizon, imbuing their escape with a cloak of obscurity. The city had awakened, its thrumming heart benign for now, with secrets nestled between skyline peaks and shadowed sinews. The air was metallic sharp, with the bouquet of looming rain, a malaise dragging clouds further into the slate cloth covering the morning. As they embarked through the city, the journey unfolded in subdued hypnosis, their path dictated by ancient cobblestones veined with moss, amid alleyways where the outlines of mystery stretched onwards into obscurity. The collective urgency propelled them forward, skin tingling against the oncoming breeze, rich with the fertilizer of rain, yet to touch earth. Suddenly, the universe seemed to jolt. Shrouded figures emerged from doorways and alley shadows. Adversaries loomed where before were whisper, Charbingers of violence dressed in dark allegiances, their expressions sequestered behind veiled intent. The crisis was immediate, visceral, clutching at the fibers of action embedded in Natalie's core. She became a flurry of movement, instincts labeled as the reactive motions of jazz unpredictable, yet precisely executed. "Get down," Leo barked, a command met with immediate compliance as bullets whizzed past, ricocheting off stone, sparking images of fate narrowly diverted. The storm of gunfire danced in time with the war cries of combatants unseen and unheralded, their menace echoing through the narrow passageways. In the moment of escalation, Natalie experienced a remarkable clarity, an unseen beacon illuminating paths previously obscured. Her heritage, her training, all conspired together, igniting dormant power within. Yang to change the tide, she maneuvered through cover with nimble artistry, taking calculated risks, each move practiced, unwavering, and fiercely determined. Leo and Antonio found their rhythm amid the chaos, Vincent lurking spectrally amidst enemies, exploiting the fracturing coherence of attack forced from concealment. The turning point came like a revelation carved out of pandemonium. Natalie noticed the leader of the attackers, a figurehead bereft of expression, but heavy with malice directed solely upon her. The familiarity of adversary was etched into angular bones and midnight eyes, a legacy of conflict bonding them through blood rather than intent. With perceptiveness forged in survival, she discerned the loyal indignation harnessed under his visible demeanor, diffused by strange recognition at odds with his expectations. A surge of resolve unfurled within her, empowered by the promise of revelations enacted now. Her hidden truths unfolded seamlessly into audacious prowess, combating not only with apparent skill, but also alongside the ancestral courage passed through time's ether. As the skirmish turned, allies emerged from unexpected quarters. Citizens whose faces carried a trust forged through conflict, witnessing and aiding where opportunity allowed. The momentum swayed in favor amidst the tumbling chaos, the bruising symphony reverberating acceptance of a fate shaped by hands deliberate in their historied actions. The remaining opposition was soon dispatched. Shadows retreated under the guise of rooftops, leaving behind the echoes of conflict nestled in dust and mortar grooves. In the haze of aftermath, the whisper of retreat flitted on the air survivors, mingling through disbelief now scattered in flight. Leo placed a hand on Natalie's shoulder, a silent commendation laden with the weight of paternal pride and approval given not of necessity, but invitational. She returned the gesture with a nod embodying unity forged under duress, binding irreversible ties drawn upon destiny's canvas. As their eyes met, the quiet of resolution settled upon them, enveloped in a tangible peace, devoid of triumph but not devoid of honor regained. Together, they breathed the essence of resolve circling them, as dusk reversed into dawn, moments resting, granting repose their rapidly diminishing energies hungered. Silently, their fear gave way to hope, a testament reaffirming a new chapter inked in purpose, destined to capture wholeness through shattered mirrors now mended. Calm returned, resting its visage upon their catastrophe, dabbled tableau yet, with the resonance of unfinished striving, a delicate hint of greater storms lying dormant, awaiting their script as they prepared to face uncertain paths beyond. Natalie stood amidst the quiet, the city bearing witness to their resolve steering her family's chapter. The morning loomed ahead like an unfurling promise, the horizon stretching beyond as consciousness surrendered control. Suddenly, a shadow darted from Allie's end, a faceless silhouette cloaked beneath capricious anticipations, where even silence dared to dwell no longer. "Can you really trust your allies?" it whispered, slipping into echo like sand, shifting under gentle shoreline touch, inviting further pursuit. The day began with a startling contrast fiery dawn stretching across the horizon of Vera City, a visual testament to the change echoing within. It seared the skyline a brilliant gold, emblazoned beneath the canopy of graying clouds, as if even nature felt the urgency of their narrative gathering momentum. "He's playing us," Natalie whispered, the realization coating her voice with clarity and warning. She stood at the edge of Leo's expansive rooftop terrace, the skyline unveiling its secrets as metaphorical weights settled upon her shoulders. The chill breeze tousled strands across her face, each gust carrying whispers of impending conflict. Below her steady surface lay tension crafted from intertwining legacies, Moretti blood commemorating each decision in its lineage. Her resolve unwavered, the mark on her arm twinning with familial heraldry she would no longer deny. Around her, high-rising skyscrapers mingled with the early morning haze, symbols of power masked in shadowy despair. Amid the echoes of echoing cars bustling far beneath, the legacy, imbued silence broke. Leo stood by her side, his towering frame seething with a mix of admiration and a hesitant awe. He glanced sidelong at her, eyes bearing witness to the defiance hooded beneath her calm. In the realm of faded memories and recent disclosures, she was more than an underestimated cop playing a game far above her rank. She was blooded defining link between the past complexities in narratives unmeasured yet. "He's gambling on our weaknesses," Leo replied thoughtfully, his gaze edging the approaching storm, both metaphorical and impending. The city, a kaleidoscope of connections and secrets, awaited their move. Pressure circled, closing in as the weight of the Moretti name bore heavily upon them. The members of the inner circle loyalists poised at Leo's behest whirled under the tense allure of anticipation, awaiting direction. Antonio, ever the protectorate, harbored skepticism beneath the stoic veneer, more cautious than ever. His concern chimed palpable beneath his formal exterior and with a veiled vigilance garnered over years of service. Vincent's enigmatic demeanor was restless tonight, his constant glances betraying self-conflicts difficult to confine. Yet beneath this veil, intent glistened, an intent that mirrored the storm stitched in his soul. "Are we ready to do what it takes?" His challenge hung between them, a prism refracting uncertainty and dare connecting courage with duty. Natalie's hands brushed the wooden rail, absorbing the grain's pattern beneath her fingertips. A recurring motif, grounding her mind to the tactical present, even while echoes of past lives drifted overhead. Unexpected alliances scratched at doors looming shut, and none more conflicting than the turncoats lurking in the wings, wavering in alliance. Leo's nod echoed authority, accompanied by an unvoiced consensus. The facade of mistrust shifted, unified by growing tides encompassing family secrets once fractured, now steadied by acceptance. A call to action resonated within the marrow of her senses, a symbiotic link to her father's will-imposed command. Moments ago, these clouds simmered with portent. Now they accepted new conditions, summoning up the roles necessity designed. As final preparations unfolded amid staccatos of whispered plans, Natalie checked her weapon symbols of her unyielding determination and inherited legacy bound in steel and gunpowder. Obstacles awaited, yet contingent forces unified beneath the Moretti flag stirred life into promises writ in shadows. "Let them come," she murmured, gazing toward rivals lurking in theater wings, content in encroaching, yet oblivious to narratives they wove with strangers turned kin. Inciting calls broke across night-moistened confines beneath the smoky residue of negotiations and counter-provocations. Ears attuned perceptively across heights where silence shielded weakness and determination broke fortifications. Each problem constructed new crises, spiraling in anticipation, gathering in tumultuous symmetry, a symphony of friction revealed through sinister hubs beyond ivory walls. Obscure truths lay woven, awaiting truths once unimagined, hiding devotion inked through generations amongst changing tides. Then came the culmination operation moments, leading to kinship unvoiced, till impact clarified vision. Looming figures synchronized with pending impact, silhouetted by enigma's lingering cast beneath storm-wrought canopies. Ambushed amidst a fusion of dust, danced amongst intimate slates beneath moon's dispassionate glance. Whatever followed would shift beneath legacy's strength, clothed in preservation's laughter, even as hidden war bells called forth devastating tides unchained. Finally faced with the eerie resonance of inevitability unveiled, but she stood undaunted, light sparking in awareness of her role yet to refine. The Morettis, both named and unnamed, marched into the sun-draped sepulchre of Veracity Truth's unknown beacon, signaling their hand, inviting foes to test borders fervently sought. Amidst gunfire's rhythmic percussion, symphony in pursuit of balance, confidence bore its scar. Their eyes locked, realizing the precipice faced required joint dedication, lift shackles fortune's game clutch sacred bonds. Together they entered the lion's den, prepared for unknown, present, burgeoning possibilities within redemption's hidden chamber. And just as Natalie's foot met burdened wood, the tympanic sky thrummed with unnatural perseverance. A disembodied voice echoed through tactical whispers within lingering promise unclaimed. "Right now, some pieces are missing," it taunted, a riddle raised amongst ghosts, guided only by the storm's wind-chilled embrace. A gunshot cracked the air, and Natalie hit the pavement, blood spreading, a crimson blossom against the concrete. Gasps echoed, fleeting moment of chaos where life hung desperately between one beat and the next. She lay there, the world around her, a blur of urgent movement and muffled voices. Every nerve screamed, a cacophony of pain and confusion. But within the agony, a strange serenity settled. Her mind spun not away, but deeper into clarity. On the rooftop terrace moments earlier, inclement skies watched as the tense air shifted, leaving the gathered Moretti clan on edge as they prepared their moves against an unnamed adversary. Natalie felt the weight of the city beneath her, the hum of Vera City, a living entity woven beneath her skin, guiding their fate. She looked to Leo, whose frame communicated the stoicism of seasoned command. Beside him, Vincent and Antonio were two faces caught in the dual glow of apprehension and readiness, a hesitance born from the shared road, but lacking the bond of blood. "What's the next move?" Vincent's voice rose, a slice through the brittle tension, eyes seeking guidance yet challenging naturally. Natalie breathed, drawing strength not just from her lineage, but the knowledge hard-won in Vera City's underbelly, its endless waltz of shadow and power, akin to her own internal dance. "We hold until we know," she stated. The authority borrowed from Leo echoed in her own determined stance. But as they strategized, the air carrying intimate blends of cigarette smoke and rain carried an interruption, a shadow stepping from the stairwell. Her mind processed even as instinct drove her. The figure was unmistakable, etched in dominance, flanked by the sway of command and the unrelenting burden it bore. Seconds fused in kaleidoscopic clarity. Natalie pivoted as the shadow became substance, her intuition steering sight and aim. Tugged from her by unseen forces, the world slowed. Every fiber ached to move instinct more than logic dictated. She sprang forward, protective measures as innate as the heart striving within her. Her father's figure, frozen with surprise, was prime. Time redistributed itself in fractions, eyes widening with the knowledge fate had one more card. The gunfire erupted, a stark contrast of heat and shivering destiny, and with it, the searing grasp of knowledge tightens. The force spun Natalie sideways, the hit an unfinished crescendo against violence, the recoil of life pulling through sinew. Down she went, the ground rushing to catch her, locking foes and allies into tight focus. Natalie, bloodied, lay within the echoes of nightmarish symmetry. Witnessed in surreal vignette, Leo's heart thundered with regrets lost to time. As soft cries of distress filtered through in layers, he stumbled, the leadership mantle slipping, as the tableau suddenly shifted around him. "She's down!" Antonio's voice sliced through the bedlam, urgency swaddling fear. The allies closed around her, position shifting and immediate as the vortex swirled darker. In her chest, life pulsed anew, unsettled and fierce. She grappled with consciousness, but unyielding truth rallied strength anew as immediate shadows tugged to obscure. Warm hands grounded alongside whispers that floated into focus. Familiar resonance guiding the maze formed post-calamity. "Stay with us, Natalie," a voice, Vincent's more unsure than before, threaded its way into clarity. "Just hold tight." A smile ghosted across her lips, mocked by irony woven into the life-siphoning pallor creeping over visage. Light played tricks, desperation grabbing inertia, cloaked in golden drabbles, filtered through darkened lashes. Memory lane had basis, and sight refracted into private hallucinations as ancient thoughts seared open undiscovered branches. As dusk ebbed into dawn, the chaos stilled life flowing through tense stretches of Reveille City, performing dance retuned, hopeful once more. Leo held her hand in unshakable grasp, empathy scripting fearsome lines down rigid facial notations. They were Moretti, they were unabridged will and complexity entangled. The enemies retreated like shadows beckoned elsewhere, retreating soundlessly swept by strength coursing from collapsing resolutions. Weakness ebbed, coiled under a DNA-lit gain a tale eternal. Natalie, her eyes met her father's, dark pits drenched within solicitude, surrendering sight once veiled. This new family, assembled under circumstances unlikely but all-encompassing, merged into onward reckoning. Old oaths disarmed, trust dissected. The city's backdrop remained steadfast, life forging a new circularity from behind wind-washed screen of empathy disseminated in chambered reflections. They knew responsibility, to defend legacy whose whispers gleed its anticipation fulfilled, masked under guise of shadows reborn. The light flickered against stone, this family manifold regaining hold, paranoia relaxed in unified breath, enclosing moments pursued to familiar synchrony. "You survived," Leo exhaled, possessing her bloodshed-breathing valor, merged alongside silent conviction. Amidst echoes, fragmented starlight continued to breathe darkness, outside peace betrayed recognition. Atop the rooftop, perched ready, whispered grace and vigilance meted between them. They allowed destiny, its breathable witness on consistent discovery. And then the city-heckled plain, rebirth basked upon the morning's safety, filling the ache existence unites unseated. Above the shifting urban scape, a figure ebbed larger, the silhouette surging. "The night isn't over," the words, relentless with promise, snaked through uncertainty, plan yet nature unforgiven.